Hey there, this is Jen T. Grace, founder and CEO of Publish Your Purpose, and I am here with Irving Fox, the new author of the memoir, The Flashing Light. Hey, Irving, how are you?
Well, I'm fine. I'm excited that the book is launched and is on Amazon now and
Yeah.
selling.
Yeah, this is exciting. Your book, this is a very new release, which is amazing and awesome and a huge accomplishment. So I want to kind of get into it because the flashing light, we don't, just based on that title, we don't really know what that means yet. So can we start with just kind of giving those who are watching just a little bit of a background of who you are and how you show up in the world?
Well, I'm a physician scientist, and I've had a career both in academic medicine and in industry also, doing R&D. And I'm also a family man. I have a wife of 56 years, a wonderful person, and 7 grandchildren, 3 daughters, 3 son-in-laws, and 7 grandchildren, which is just as important to me as my career. So, and I have recently become an author. I've done a lot of technical writing, but I've never written a book, and this is my first time.
Yeah.
So, and it's been pretty exciting and
Mhm.
very much a learning process.
Yeah, it always is, especially the first book. And even when you're writing a second or third or fourth, there's still a learning curve to it. So it's interesting. And I was saying before we went live, like it's a huge accomplishment. Like you're crossing this monumental finish line that not everyone has the opportunity to cross. So I'm thrilled that we are here on launch day having this conversation because it's
Right.
very exciting.
And
So
I'm not exactly a babe in arms.
well, would you mind showing your how about this babe in your arms is your book? How
Yes, it
about that?
is. Yeah,
Yes, so it's
it's
The Flashing Light, a medical mystery memoir. So, can you just share with those who are watching, like, what is it about? What does the flashing light mean? And, any details related to the story?
Well, the flashing light was a very striking event that started my illness with which happened with the flashing light, and then a funny feeling of not being able to see very well on the left side. But then the second time it happened, I actually had a flashing light, and I couldn't find my car in the parking lot. Uh, when I turned around, it was right there because my vision on the left side was gone. It was transient, but that was very frightening.
Mhm.
And so my story started that way. And I saw a doctor, and he told me I had migraines, and I said, "Well, I'm happy I have migraines." But the next time it happened, was much more drastic. That so the flashing light was an aura either for a migraine, but it turned out to be an aura for a generalized seizure, and
Mhm.
that's what kicked off this acute event in my life when I was 24 years old and a young physician and frightened, and it the story unfolds, telling that and also putting in context the illness, which I could remember the first month, but not the second month. My memory, I totally have my memory blotted out for the second month,
Wow.
where and I had was in both a neurological hospital and a psychiatric hospital
Mhm.
more than 50 years ago,
Mhm.
1968, 69, and it was quite. I didn't really find out what I didn't find out what happened to me until I decided to during the pandemic when
Mhm.
I had time freed up to find out about what happened to me at that time,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
I was able to find out what occurred and why probably I lost my memory for 2 months,
Mhm.
and then I suddenly got better beyond belief.
Mhm.
We didn't know what was going to happen. I certainly didn't know, and then the book talks about how I pursued the rest of my life after that. But
Mhm.
half the book is about that acute event, which was very striking, and
Mhm.
um, I learned about it during. I explored this by getting my medical records and finding out what happened to me.
Mhm.
So, but the most striking thing, the reason I focused on the flashing light, it was very amazing. Suddenly, this bright blue light right in front of you started happening. And it turns out that there was no blue light there. It was a fabrication of my brain, the
Wow.
abnormality of my brain, which caused that to signal to me that I was seeing a flashing blue light.
Wow.
But it was so, that's why I gave the book that title, because it was
Mhm.
such a striking thing that happened to me, and that
Yeah.
initiated everything.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know that, you just kind of said that, half of the book is very much, or a good amount of the book is very much around kind of this event that was very much a catalyst for the rest of your life. And
Yeah.
so I'm curious because we were talking before, and it's just interesting that sometimes like we have an event, it is huge, it's significant, but in that moment we don't recognize the long-term impact
Yeah.
it has on us, and in your case it had a huge impact on your career moving forward. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Yes. You discover things when you write, and that was very clear to me after I sat back and looked at the book, and I said, I realized that I got better, and I kind of put the disease in the back of my mind because, and I didn't talk about it because if you told somebody in 1968 or 69 that you were psychotic and spent 2 months in a psychiatric hospital,
Mhm.
that would have been career limiting, to
Yeah.
say the least. But anyways, but I did recover, and I went on to have a very fine career, starting in academic medicine. And then I changed. I decided that I I wanted to um, I wanted to go into industry and develop use my scientific knowledge to develop novel treatments to improve the lives of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people if I
Mhm.
could. Um, Working in the biopharmaceutical industry. And there you work on teams, and nobody does it on their own. But
Mhm.
I was able to, leading some teams, get some very significant drugs approved that had major impacts
Mhm.
and breakthroughs in multiple sclerosis and then Crohn's and ulcerative colitis. And so I was able to um, give back in a way. And I didn't realize that probably the making the decision to go into industry, which is not in the 1990 was not a usual decision.
Mhm.
My colleagues said, "You're throwing your career away.
Mhm.
How are you going to deal with those sleazeball businessmen?" So
Yeah.
I went anyways because I felt that was my mission in life, was to use my scientific knowledge and
Mhm.
talents to develop novel treatments. And ultimately, I was able to succeed, not alone, but with teams of people that were very, very talented. And we got
Mhm.
the job done ourselves, so.
Yeah. It's just so interesting to think about, as a physician, however many patients a physician can see in a singular year, as an
Yeah,
example, versus, to me, it's almost like the medical equivalent of scaling, where if you're moving into kind of the industry, as you're saying, where you're working in pharmaceuticals now, that impact is going to be, I would imagine, if it takes off, because you are saying that,
yeah.
one in 10 would be successful back in the 90s in terms of new drugs. So it's just interesting to think of how many lives that work that you've done, how many lives that's impacted. Because I would imagine it's probably significantly more than you could have personally
Oh,
treated as a
well,
physician.
yeah. There's no comparison. The
Hmm.
impact on
Yeah,
hundreds of thousands of people
it's amazing.
over many years is dramatic.
Hmm.
And also I managed to join a company that was doing cutting edge drugs, novel drugs, of which there was never any before that could have that impact.
Hmm.
So, like for example, multiple sclerosis, we were the first ones to demonstrate that you could modify the progression of disability. Now, and the drug was Avonex. Now, that was the first one. There are much better drugs now, but it proved the point
Hmm.
that you could slow the progression of disability in multiple sclerosis. Nobody
Wow.
ever was able to do that before.
Yeah.
And so that was a turning point in that field, you know,
Yeah.
anyhow.
It's incredible. It's truly incredible. And when you're thinking about your reader, what is your kind of your hope for them in turn? Like, what do you imagine for them to kind of get out of having read your book?
Well, that's another recognition after the book was written. I realized that my having this serious calamitous disease with which looked hopeless while I was having it, and then being able to recover could inspire people with a calamitous event in their lives to look towards the possibility of going back to normal. And that's why I dedicated the book to inspire people who had calamitous events in their lives that they could improve and go back to normal. So that's a realization I developed after writing the book. You know, you sort of have to step back and say, well, what does this tell you? You know, there's no question that I really believe that that was an important message of the whole story. You know.
Yeah. And you specifically say that it's, you know, it's a calamity of any kind. It doesn't have to be medical specifically. No. But I think at the same time, there's probably a lot of people who are walking through this world who have some type of medical mystery that is completely has many dumbfounded as to what the cause is or what's happening, and seeing specialists and things like that. So I think that there is a huge component of this of someone who might be experiencing that right now in real time, to be able to see that you yourself have been in that position, and kind of how you came out on the other side stronger and better than ever.
Right. But when I looked, when I got my medical records and I looked what my behavior was like in the psychiatric hospital, and I can't remember it at all. I was flabbergasted by how ill I was and how bonkers I was, put it bluntly, with delusions and really hallucinations, and just out of touch with reality, and just bizarre behavior. So and then I did recover from that.
Yeah, it's so wild. And to your point that you made a couple minutes ago, that it could have been kind of like a career ending situation, but somehow it didn't become that, which is really amazing, especially in 1968, 1969.
Yeah, but in some ways, we have to figure out why that happened. But some of it is luck also. It's not just determination and good medical treatment or whatever. Some is just could be just luck.
Yeah. So what do you imagine kind of the future for this book? Just fast forward a year from now, what are people saying to you? How is it, what have people done maybe differently as a result? Just kind of curious what you might think.
Well, mainly I hope to inspire people to have hope for a better life if they're in this kind of situation. I mean, there's different parts of the book because I talk about my early life, growing up and getting married to my wife of what's going to be 57 years in June, and then us living a life together. She went through this with me, but was an inspiration for me, and being in this situation which looked hopeless, and then coming out the other side, and having the experience of living a full life with children, and my 3 daughters, 3 son-in-laws, and 7 grandchildren.
Very
important to me in my life also. So I don't know if I answered your question. I think I deviated a little bit.
Yeah, no, you definitely answered the question. Yeah, and I feel like at the time you probably were newlyweds, right? When this happened.
Yeah, we've been married 2 years, but I remember when I first had, the first time when I lost my vision on the left side, going to the emergency room and firmly believing what I'd been taught in medical school as somebody who had lost the vision on the left side with an aura, that I had a brain tumor and I was going to die. And then I saw my wife, and I said, "Oh, she's going to be a beautiful widow."
Mm,
That was kind
wild.
of some of the things that are written near the beginning of the book that
Yeah.
which went through my mind.
Yeah.
So
That's
uh,
wild. And here you are almost 57 years later. So
yeah, right.
it's,
My first book at age 79.
hey, that's, and I think that's a good testament that it's never too late
No,
or never too early or too late to
no.
kind of put that out there, because
Yeah,
publishing a book is a dream for many people. And
yeah.
obviously this has been on your mind for a long time. And
I've
yeah.
published a lot of
Hmm.
scientific articles and written,
Hmm.
with other people, thousands of pages for
Hmm.
regulatory agencies to get drugs approved. But writing
Yeah.
a book like this, a story is very different,
Hmm.
and it's a completely different style and different
Hmm.
approach that you
Hmm.
have to use. So
Yeah, you have to be raw and vulnerable to really
yeah,
have an impact, and I think that's a hard balance for a lot of people, and even more so if you're coming from a background where you were writing for professional or academic reasons, or
yeah,
yeah. So it's definitely a struggle for many people. So you
yeah.
certainly weren't alone in that.
But I'm happy to try new things since I've
Hmm.
done that all my life.
Absolutely. Yeah, and like I said, your book is just now coming out. We're already got sales coming in, and the marketing hasn't even begun yet. So that'll be a whole new testing of your skill set. Is just the different types of marketing
Right.
that
Well,
that you can do.
I'm a keen learner. I'm keen to take on new challenges, even
Absolutely.
at my advanced age.
Hey, you're here and you're doing it, and that's what
Yeah,
matters. So it's
absolutely.
exciting.
So
Yeah.
I'm defying the adage that you can't teach an old horse new tricks.
Hmm. You absolutely do. And to me, this will be the interview that I point to when someone says, "Oh, it's too late for me to do this." It's like,
Yeah.
no, it is absolutely not. So I love that. I love that you've taken this on, and we're wise enough to find the right support in terms of the writing process
Oh,
and to
absolutely.
kind of just get it done. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Hmm.
yeah, I needed a lot of advice and help. I mean, I
Hmm.
wrote the first draft myself, but
Hmm.
and then after I had it reviewed, it was clear I needed a lot of help
Hmm.
to turn it into a much better book.
Yeah, it takes a village, is what
Yeah.
I say often to get a book done. I think a lot of times readers have this impression that it's just the author and they're kind of like, siloed up somewhere doing their thing and writing. And when really it takes a lot of hands touch the book before it's a book and then after it's a book and then even beyond.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very
So it's
exciting.
been an experience,
Hmm.
one that I'm glad I've had. Now
Yeah.
I'm questioning whether I should. Well, I have to get out and market and see if anybody wants to buy the book. I'm hoping they do. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
but then I trying to have thoughts about whether I would do another one. It's just,
I love that you're saying
well,
that.
at my age, you don't know
Yeah.
how long you're going to be around, but you
Hmm.
can't worry about it. You just
Hmm.
proceed full tilt as much as you can do,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
and live a full life.
Yeah. I love that a second book is already just kind of percolating in the background. Even if you don't do anything with it, it's just,
Yeah.
I tell people that, and I don't think you and I had that conversation
No.
specifically, but a lot of times in the beginning of the conversation, someone will say, I will never do this again. And oh, 9 out of 10 times, I'm like, I guarantee you, you will circle back and
Yeah.
you'll be saying something different in 6 months. So I love that you're already thinking about it.
Well, I've enjoyed the process. You
Hmm.
know, because I'm retired, I have more time to
Hmm.
enjoy the process. Although
Yeah.
I'm doing lots of other things, taking other classes, and
Hmm.
in my one of my temples, I'm on the board and things like
Hmm.
that.
Yeah, I
So
was gonna say I have a lot of extracurricular activities
yeah,
that you're up to and boards and things like that.
yeah.
So yeah, even I feel like retirement is you're probably just as active. I feel like that's how it is for a lot of
But
people.
it's really different,
Yeah. Fun.
because I can choose my time when I want to work, and
Hmm.
if I don't feel like doing anything, I
Yeah.
usually do something because at least exercising every day.
Yeah. Gotta stay sharp.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, this has been a great conversation. So, what I'll say is that for anyone who is interested in checking out Irving's book, if you want to hold it up again while I'm telling people where they can get it.
Sure. Yeah.
So, it's The Flashing Light, a medical mystery memoir by Irving Fox. And it's available wherever you buy books. So, you might be a big fan of Amazon. you are welcome to go purchase it from Amazon. I am a fan of bookshop.org, which is a certified B Corp, which PYP is also a certified B Corp, which if you've watched any of these interviews, you know I'm always talking about B Corps, which just means we have a commitment to environmentally friendly practices and sustainability. And bookshop.org is the same. So, and they also have a huge give back component to local bookstores. So even though it's an online bookstore, they actually have a philanthropic component to local bookstores. So that is always my preference. But Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Waterstones, wherever it is that you want to buy your book, you are welcome to go check it out there. And if you want to find more information about Irving, you can check out publishyourpurpose.com. We have a whole page filled with his information. So if you want to reach out to him, you are welcome to kind of do so through us. And we're happy to make that connection point, because Irving, I feel like there's a lot of potential with this book, because I think that there's just so many people who are kind of struggling with that calamity in their life that you were talking about before. And I think this book is going to be inspiration to a lot. So I'm very excited to see where this takes you.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure speaking about the book to people and letting them know about it, so.
Absolutely. And so if anyone's interested and they're watching and they want to have you do a book club or a book reading or some kind of event, then that is certainly all available and on the table.
Possible.
We can certainly make that happen.
We even have book club questions in the back of the book.
Yeah, I think it's a great book club read.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you for your time today, Irving. And this is beautiful. I'm so excited that we're here, virtual toasting, and I will see you soon. And then I will be back probably next week talking to someone else. For those that want to keep tuning in, I will be back then. And in the meantime, have a beautiful rest of your